My name is Sam Tyler. I'm president of the Boston Municipal Research Bureau, and I welcome all of you to the Research Bureau's annual meeting for 2018, which is our 86th annual meeting. Now, please rise for the singing of the national anthem by Boston Police Officer Stephen McNulty.
Oh, say, can you see by the dawn's early light what so proudly we hailed at the twilight's last gleaming, whose broad stripes and bright stars through the perilous fight, oh, the ramparts we watched were so gallantly streaming, and the rocket's red glare, the bombs bursting in air, gave proof through the night that our flag was still there. Oh, say, does that star-spangled banner yet wave? Oh, the land of the free and the home of the brave.
Now, this annual meeting luncheon with the mayor is always an interesting time because of the great mix of business, institutional, government, and political leaders who attend. And I would like to acknowledge a few individual officials who are with us today. Let me introduce our dignitaries, and then we can break for lunch. I want to start with the first advisor of the mayor, the person he relies on first, which is his partner, Lori Higgins, who is with us today. Thank you, Lori, for being here. Now, as you have known if you've been here before, the mayor likes to come to this dinner or lunch with a lot of support, and so his whole senior team basically is here. Cabinet officers, department heads, other senior officials, two named to mention individually, so if you would all stand and be recognized. Now. The Boston City Council, the legislative branch of the city, is also here, starting with President Andrea Campbell from District 4. Also, Michelle Wolf, the most recent president of the City Council. District Councilors Frank Baker, District 3. And Mark Siomo will be here. He is just about ready to start a hearing, which won't go too long, but he'll be here for the mayor's speech. From the school committee, we're delighted that Michael LeConto, who's the current chair of the school committee, is here, as well as Michael O'Neill, who had been chair for several years. Michael also was just recently elected secretary-treasurer to the Council of Great City Schools, which is quite an honor for Boston. Superintendent Tommy Chang, also here, with some of his senior team. Tommy, wherever you are, would you stand? There we go. Also from the Massachusetts legislature, Representative Kevin Honan, our good friend from the 17th Suffolk District. And from state authorities, the CEO of the Massachusetts Port Authority, former bureau director, but now he's got another job. So Tom Glynn, thank you. Now, we appreciate when our members who have, our table sponsors basically make some room for all these public officials so that they can join us. However, we have one table here which is on government steroids, and that's the Suffolk University table that John Nucci put together. And we're delighted that John also invited Robert Lamb, the chairman of the board of Suffolk University. So, Chairman Lamb, thank you for being here. And now for the rest of the table. Senator Joseph Boncory, 1st Suffolk and Middlesex District. Representative, I got a long list, so wait a while to the end. Representative Aaron Michaelwitz, 3rd Suffolk District. Suffolk County District Attorney Dan Connolly. At-large City Councilor Anissa Azabi George. At-large City Councilor Michael Flaherty. District 1 City Councilor Lydia Edwards. And District 5 City Councilor Tim McCarthy. Also Carla Basil, former representative from East Boston, and Paul Scapicchio, former city councilor, now with the Novus Group. So if you would all stand just to show what one real beefy government table looks like. And lastly, the city of Boston is very fortunate in that there are a number of business-sponsored organizations like the Research Bureau that have different functions but play an important role in terms of the quality of life in this city and helping make the city a better place for those who work and live in the city. And we have a number of those individuals with us. So Jim Rooney, and wait till the end if you would. Jim Rooney from the Greater Boston Chamber of Commerce, Greg Vassell from the Greater Boston Real Estate Board, Pat Muscatella from the Greater Boston Convention and Visitors Bureau, Rosemary Sansone from the Downtown Boston BID, Meg Baines of Cohen from the Back Bay Association, Marilyn Schwartz-Lloyd from Masco, also a Bureau Director, Sue Sullivan, Newmarket Business Association. Jay Walsh was supposed to be here, but he is sick. And to that group, they're all here as well. So if you stand, we'll recognize you. And so that concludes the introductions, and that's where we'll end and break for lunch and be back with a few more speakers briefly, and then the mayor. Thank you. So we can hear from the mayor on time. We're going to get started. So this is where you get a little commercial about the Research Bureau, which is that, the Research Bureau plays a unique role in Boston as an independent organization that provides an objective, analytical, fact-based perspective to the finance and public policy decisions made in Boston. So in this time, when fake news and alternate facts are confusing the conversation and affecting policy, the work of the Research Bureau is even more important. We provide expert research and independent analysis that produce trusted results that benefit the city of Boston and those who work and live in Boston. We had a very productive year last year. Going into this year, the fiscal health of the city is always our #1 priority, so financial management issues are part of our core mission. The city is in good financial position, but challenges exist, no question about it. The Research Bureau recently issued an update or a one-page sort of mini research project on local aid in Boston and how the state really is not keeping pace, which is having an effect on the school department. We've been involved with the implementation of the CPA, and will continue to be so. We're delighted that in the creation of the Community Preservation Committee we were involved, but also that one of the 4 at-large members appointed by the City Council to the Community Preservation Committee is Matthew Kiefer, who is a director of Goulston and Stores and a director of the Research Bureau. So the Bureau will continue to be involved with that. We'll work to advance school improvement and greater school accountability and student achievement. School governance, it's not our hope, but it's going to be an issue we're going to have to deal with. And we will be advocates for continuing the appointed school board so that the mayor remains fully accountable for public education. Development, transportation, housing issues are in our bandwidth. We issued a report earlier this year on the first phase of the city's initiative to sell city-owned parcels to create housing, and of the first phase of 183 city-owned parcels, that resulted in the creation of 458 housing units, also an increase in $155 million in taxable value. So one of the many successes of the various initiatives that the city has instituted. We're also trying to be more sensitive to the inequality and resiliency issues that face the city. But before concluding, I'd like to first thank the Research Bureau directors that are here and that are so supportive of the Research Bureau, but also involved with working with the city on various initiatives that help, I think, in terms of bringing expertise that is beneficial to the city. So it's not only supporting the Research Bureau, but it's also playing an active role. The Bureau staff is small in number, but accomplishes a lot, this lunch being one example. So thanks to the energetic and committed work of Pam Coker, our Vice President, and John Landgren, our Research Associate, Elaine Beatty. She does everything, so she doesn't really have one title, is our more senior member, and Jennifer Stadola, who's our Operations and Membership Manager, and John Lovett, who is our Student Research Assistant from Northeastern. So that's our staff. And now, at this time, it's my pleasure to introduce Thomas Samoluk, who is the Chairman of the Research Bureau and also Vice President and Counsel, External Affairs and Investigative Services for John Hancock, who will present remarks and introduce the mayor.
Thank you. Thanks, Sam. I'm a little bit nervous because Sam told me to stay on time, and he stole some of my material, but I'm going to say them anyway. Good afternoon. I welcome you today as chair of the Research Bureau's board and as a representative of a long-standing Bureau member and supporter of the Bureau, John Hancock, and also on behalf of our new CEO, Mary Ann Ryan, who is the first woman to run John Hancock in our 156-year history. And Mary Ann had the opportunity to visit with the mayor yesterday, and I should note that our special guest speaker, the mayor, who I'll introduce in a couple of minutes, was one of the first people to welcome Mary Ann back to Boston when she recently took the job. And I know she appreciates, Mayor, the warm welcome that you extended to her. Before talking about the important work of the Research Bureau, I want to make sure that we recognize and express appreciation to this year's premier sponsors, who you've probably seen projected on the screen during the course of the luncheon. And they are Blue Cross Blue Shield of Massachusetts, Citizens Bank, Comcast NBC Universal, John Hancock, KPMG, and Veolia. And the reception sponsor was P&G Gillette. So please join me in a round of applause for our sponsors. I'm really honored to chair the Research Bureau. As I said, John Hancock has been a long-standing member, and it's a particularly exciting time for the city and the Bureau. And Sam mentioned the staff, but they work so hard. I want to mention them again. I'm thrilled to work with Sam and Pam, John, Jen, and Elaine. Sounds like a rock band, but they work really hard, as well as the board and the research bureau membership, the entire membership. And the research bureau's work is important. There's no doubt about that. Day in and day out, the bureau makes a great contribution to the city of Boston, a tangible difference in helping city government work effectively for those who work and live in the city. The Research Bureau's expertise, objective analysis, and credibility help shape the direction of public policy over a wide range of city issues. Over the years, the Bureau's research reports and recommendations have led to sound policies, new laws, and important management improvements for Boston. The Bureau is an important voice on issues such as fiscal management, that is Sam's favorite one, education, housing, pensions, transportation, the Community Preservation Act, and much more. And we will become more involved with other issues such as climate change and equity. Now, I'd like to turn to the second reason for my being at the podium today, and that is to introduce our special guest speaker, which I am pleased and honored to do. You know his resume well. He's the city's 54th mayor and was sworn in to serve a second term on January 1st, 2018. Since taking office, he has maintained the city's strong financial position, focused on strengthening Boston's schools, led Boston to the forefront of the global innovation economy, been a leader on income equality, and worked to address the tremendous need for housing in the city. There's much more, but I know you want to hear from the mayor himself. Just one last word on the mayor. Last week, some of you may have seen the media coverage of this, in a sure sign that spring is almost here, we all hope, Mayor Walsh joined John Hancock Senior Executive and General Counsel Jim Gallagher at the unveiling of the 2018 Boston Marathon banners on Boylston Street, an annual event, and it tells you that there is hope. And when Mayor Walsh joined Jim for that ceremony, in reflecting on the tragic and shocking events at the marathon nearly 5 years ago, on April 15th, 2013, Mayor Walsh said the following: "One Boston day has turned the marathon into a movement our entire city has rallied around, spreading the message of kindness and goodwill across the world. April 15th will forever be a day that represents the resilience of the human spirit, and I hope everyone can mark this day in a way that showcases the very best of our city and its people. That is compassion, that is leadership. Please join me in giving a warm Boston Municipal Research Bureau welcome to the mayor of the great city of Boston, the Honorable Martin J. Walsh."
Thank you, Tom, and thank you for that introduction, and also thank you for everything you do in our city, and as a partner with John Hancock, I appreciate your support and friendship, and Jim's as well, so thank you. I also want to thank Sam for many years of service. I had a joke set up here, Sam, because every year I come here, I think you're retiring, so I didn't talk about it this year, so I look forward to seeing you here next year again. I want to thank you very much. And I also want to just give a special shout out to all my colleagues that are here. Thank you for being here today. But there's one colleague here that I've had the pleasure of working with for a long time. Many of us have, and this is his last luncheon as the district attorney. And I'd like to thank Dan Conley for his years of service as a city councilor. As a city councilor and then as district attorney, and he's done so much in that office that you don't see the headlines. You read the headlines when somebody goes to jail or when there's an arrest, but behind the scenes, Dan has been working on programs with reentry. He has an incredible in a couple of weeks, the Genomics Climb, his office, the district attorney, is going to be doing along with Laurie. And this is really for victims of child abuse and sexual crimes. And I want to thank Dan for all that he's done for the young people in our city and the Commonwealth. So thank you, Dan, again. I also want to start by also recognizing students from across America and the young people right here in Boston who are changing the national conversation on school safety and urban gun violence. On Saturday's March for Our Lives, we saw that leadership and we felt that change from Madison Park High School to Boston Common. And with us today are some of the youth, actually a lot of the youth, who organized that march, as well as survivors from Mothers for Justice and Equality who have been leading on this issue for a long time. I'd like to recognize them. Please stand up. These leaders in this movement offers a powerful example of how local action can lead to national change. These young people, what they did on Saturday was remarkable. They did it without any politicians, any older people. They did it all on their own. The message was dead on, and I'm very proud of them. I had a chance to see them twice that day, and they did an incredible job. So thank you, because today more than ever, it's up to ordinary Americans, local communities, and cities to solve the toughest issues that we face as a nation. Boston is a city that knows how to lead. Our police-community relations are a national model. Our response to climate change has won global recognition, and we have more work to do there. Our pre-kindergarten program is closing the achievement gap. And this same culture of mission-driven innovation has moved us to the forefront of the global economy. You see it in our homegrown leaders in healthcare, education, and finance, and many in this room today. We see it in global powerhouses like Amazon and Philips and MassMutual, innovators like Rapid7 in cybersecurity, Aptiv and autonomous vehicles, Wayfair and DraftKings and online, Reebok and ASICS and shoes, and 40,000 small businesses all across our city. Not long ago, Boston was branded as a branch office city. Today, we've been the #1 city for startups for 2 years in a row. We're growing at a rate of about roughly $5 billion a year in development and 20,000 new jobs every single year. And we're on every shortlist for new headquarters all across this country. We are the city of the 21st century. But growth by itself doesn't define our success. We have to move together, forward together. In fact, there's no bigger challenge facing our nation today than building an economy that works for every single person. Conventional wisdom says that the very innovation that's driving Boston's success is what brings inequality. I don't accept that. I said at my inauguration in January that we're a city that's world-class because it works for the middle class. And I certainly meant that. A new study by the Brookings Institute shows that between 2014 and 2016, inequality narrowed in the city of Boston by 17%. That's 17%. We fell from first place to 7th place in the national rankings. And that's one title that I'm certainly happy to give up. The data shows one clear reason. Our inequality fell because Boston's working people are rising. Because of many of you in this room, average incomes at the lower end of the scale grew by 19% since 2014. Working people are doing much better, and we're becoming a more equal city. And it's making our success not only more meaningful, but also more sustainable. I want to be clear about this because it's something that impacts the national conversation. We have moved to the forefront of the innovation economy while at the same time reducing inequality, and that's a game changer. So I want to talk today about how we're achieving this success, how we can take this even further as a city, and how we can lead the national conversation in a more positive direction. At City Hall, it starts with investing in communities. We're building new schools in Roxbury, Chinatown, Fenway, and the South End. We're building new firehouses in Dorchester and Roxbury and a new police station in East Boston. We're renovating libraries in Jamaica Plain, Dudley Square, Rosendale, and Dorchester. We've also maintained a perfect AAA bond rating for 4 years running so we can keep investing in Boston's neighborhoods and its people. I'd like to introduce to you some leaders in City Hall who are advancing this work and helping us with this. We have a new Chief Financial Officer. Her name is Emma Handy, who's with us today. We have a new Budget Director, Justin Sterrett, who's with us today. And we have a new Chief of Health and Human Services, Marty Martinez, who's with us today. I'd like to ask them to please stand up. Together, along with the City Council, we're making sure that every dollar in every program move our city forward and strengthen our middle class. Job training is a great example. In the last 4 years, we've reformed our system of workforce development. We've graduated nearly 3,000 residents from job training programs that are proven to raise wages and launch careers. But for a truly transformative impact, we need the entire employer community at the table. So this year, we launched Boston Hires, our plan to place 20,000 low-income residents in good jobs by the year 2022. Other cities have marketing campaigns, and they simply call it Hire Locally. This is something much more than that. We're inviting employers to sponsor or hire graduates of our partner programs in a collective effort to strengthen our workforce. Wages are one part of our middle-class financial security. Housing is just as important. The fundamental cost driver for a regional housing shortage that developed over many decades. That's why we've made housing a priority. So far, we've permitted over 26,000 new homes in the city. More than 17,000 of those homes are complete, and 9,000 right now are under construction. An additional 26,000 proposed units are under review. In all, that's 52,000 new homes, or 98% of our target by the year 2030. We got serious about housing in the city of Boston. But just as important of homes, we've set aside 19% of those for low and moderate income families. We harness the heat of the market to keep Boston the national leader in affordable housing. Over 1/3 of our city's rental units are subsidized. No major city we know of comes close to that figure. And we've created more new workforce housing than our city has ever seen in many years. We made a decision to house the people who fuel our economy. That's something every employer needs if you're going to keep growing in our city. And we're proud of this progress. And I've been proud to share these strategies as the housing chair for the U.S. Conference of Mayors. But we still have much, much more work to do. So we are working with our neighbors on a regional housing plan that will finally address the full scope of the housing shortage in the entire greater Boston community. As part of that plan, we'll announce new targets for Boston that reflect our growing population. To meet those new targets, we will upgrade our public housing to protect every single affordable unit and create mixed income communities. We're working with the City Council and the state legislature, and we're developing regulations on short-term rentals to allow flexibility for home ownership while protecting access to housing. We're working with college universities to help dorm production to keep pace with their enrollment growth. We've turned over 300 city-owned parcels into 1,000 new homes, and we're inviting ideas to add mixed income housing to 82 public facilities, from our libraries to our community centers. Finally, and most importantly, we are rallying our city to end chronic homelessness for good. This is a much more reachable goal than people realize. Under our new system, we've housed nearly 1,400 formerly homeless women and men, and we've ended chronic veterans homelessness. But we have a plan to go further. And we set up a way we can do this together as a city. I want to explain this. Back in January, for the first time in Boston's modern history, there was no inaugural ball after the mayoral election. There was a reason for that. Inaugural balls are paid for by private donors, many of you in this room. You have to raise money for that. I decided that whatever funds we could raise should go to something more important than a party. So we created the Boston Way Home Fund. The goal is to raise $10 million in private donations. Those funds will leverage a plan developed with Pine Street Inn, who's here today, to create 200 new units of permanent supportive housing. That means subsidized rental housing with services that build life skills and connect people to health care and to jobs. I visited with folks in the new apartments as they begin to rebuild their lives. There is no more meaningful experience I've had as mayor. Bank of America started us off with a $250,000 donation, and today I can announce 3 more gifts that we've received. Mass General Hospital, Brigham Women's Hospital, and Partners Healthcare will contribute a combined $1 million to this fund. Suffolk Construction is making a $1 million donation, and Liberty Mutual is also donating $1 million. I want to thank these generous organizations that are here with us today. I ask every business in our city to help do your part. Please visit bostonswayhomefund.org to learn how you can help. Housing our growing city isn't just about what government can do, but it's what the market can do. It's a responsibility that we should all take on together. Opportunity tomorrow means education today. We are dedicated to making the children of Boston full partners in our city's success. Boston Public Schools' 4-year graduation rate is up to 72.7%, an increase of nearly 15% over the last 10 years. That's a solid progress and a credit to our educators and our teachers and our students. But we have more work to do. We've been strengthening pathways all the way from early education into college and career. We're expanding our free college savings accounts for 5-year-olds and our free community college for high school students. We're making new investments in rigorous curriculum in 21st century classrooms. And we're doing innovative work in social and emotional learning, homelessness support, and nutrition. Working with the Shah Family Foundation, we're expanding the fresh food pilot that's succeeding in East Boston. By this fall, 30 schools across the city will have new or renovated kitchens producing fresh, nutritious food, replacing frozen chicken nuggets with fresh grilled chicken and vegetables. It's more than a menu upgrade, it's an equalizer. We're closing the health gap that prevents many children from learning to their full potential. In addition, this September, roughly 1,000 more children will be enrolled in high-quality pre-kindergarten compared to 5 years ago. These classrooms are the gold standard in early education. They've proven to close the achievement gap. Unfortunately, we still fall short of universal access to high-quality seats. The good news is we have a pathway there. I want to thank Speaker DeLeo and the legislature for reporting favorably out of committee a bill to fund universal pre-kindergarten. We have built a model of high-quality pre-kindergarten that the state and the nation are following. It's working, and it's ready to expand. We just need the resources to reach each of our children. I asked the full legislature, and I know our colleagues that are here today are in full support, I asked the full legislature to advance this bill to the governor's desk and give every young Bostonian the start they need. I've made it clear we're serious about expanding opportunity, and we have to break down the racial inequity that builds up over many generations in our country. Racial equity has been a central goal of my administration in everything that we do. It's more than talk, we're taking action. The Hyams Foundation has been a key partner in this work. Executive Director Jocelyn Sargent is here, and I want to thank her for her leadership. Today, Hyams released the results of a new survey on opportunity and race relations in Boston. It dives deep into the issue and gives equal weight to every community in our city. The survey shows that Bostonians are passionate about achieving equal opportunity, and they are optimistic about our progress. I encourage everyone to explore the report as we continue this very vital conversation. Everywhere I travel, I talk to leaders of communities that are grappling with race and immigration, climate and infrastructure, opioids and healthcare. More than ever, its cities and its mayors are taking the lead on the toughest issues. So I want to invite you to be part of our national leadership right here in Boston. In June, we will host the United States Conference of Mayors for the first time since 2004. Hundreds of mayors from all across this country are going to come to Boston. We will tackle issues from jobs to housing, from gun reform to the drug crisis. This is an opportunity for Boston to share our success, learn from other cities, and lead the national conversation. I invite everyone to help put Boston's best foot forward. You can get involved through the Greater Boston Convention and Visitors Bureau. President Pat Muscartolo is here if you want to get started, so please see Pat. Where are you, Pat? There you are, Pat, down the back, so please let us know. And I would love to have you involved in that conversation. We have a story to tell in Boston. We started the year with first night and an inauguration the next day. Last week, we hosted March Madness. Next month, we'll bring the Boston Marathon. One Boston Day will mark the 50th anniversary of the 2013 tragedies with acts of service and kindness throughout our city. In June, we'll host the Bio Convention with 16,000 biotech leaders from around the world. In addition, the U.S. Conference of Mayors will put on an international climate summit for cities right here in Boston. We'll host a global startup boot camp with top entrepreneurs from around the world. And we'll celebrate our annual traditions, dozens of college commencements, 4th of July fireworks in the Boston Pops, Shakespeare on the Common, and the Symphony at Franklin Park, and the diverse cultural celebrations all across our city. Hopefully, we'll also have a lot of playoff games at the TD Garden, maybe even a parade or two, who knows? After all, we are a city of champions. But we're also a city of compassion. So I just want to say a word about our friend who's with us today, John Nucci from Suffolk University. John has helped a ton of people over the years, and now he's in need for himself for some help. He's waiting for a kidney transplant. I'd like to ask all of you, please visit mghlivingdonors.org to learn more. Let's spread the word for John, and let's raise the awareness on this important cause. Thank you, John. Boston is a world-class city with the heart of a caring community. That's how we're stoking innovation while driving down inequality. We're strengthening and expanding our middle class, and we're showing a nation the way forward on the toughest issues. And we're welcoming the world to learn and grow in our great city. At a time when cities must lead, Boston is the leader of cities, and I am prouder than ever to be its mayor. I want to thank you for the opportunity today to be here. I want to say God bless you and God bless the city of Boston.
All right. The mayor's going to be here for a few questions, and I will start. Mayor, you mentioned that job training for low-income residents, but what's your view on the importance of summer jobs, and how does the funding look?
Thank you, Sam, and thank you for bringing that question up. We have one of the most successful summer job programs in the country. Many cities around America come to our city to explore and see what we do. And every year in the last 4 years, we've raised the number of summer jobs that we've been able to give out. We've fully funded it in our package that the budget will be voted on. But as always, we're asking employers here, we'd love to have more opportunities. If you're new out there or you haven't hired a kid in the summertime, you'd like to get involved, please see us. See somebody from the City Hall that's at one of your tables. We need to continue to get more opportunities. We're seeing successes in our city in a whole bunch of different areas. We're seeing violence go down in our city. We're seeing homicides go down in our city. But it's happening because of the employer community, because of education, because of all the different programs we have together. So I'd love to ask anyone in this room that has not hired a young person, would love to get you part of this process. And I guarantee you, your company will get more out of it than the kids do. So please, thank you.
We have microphones on either side, so if you want to ask a question, just raise your hand or stand. I got more questions, but I think the mayor might rather hear from you.
Don't be shy. Yes, Meg. Yell at him.
It's coming right to you.
What is your advice to Boston students as they encounter their concerns about what they're seeing on a national level, especially related to gun violence? What's your advice to young people of Boston?
Speak out. I think that, on Saturday, as I said, and prior to Saturday, I've had the chance to sit with young people, and they're usually ahead of the curve. And I think the fact that the young students from Parkland and around America forced the legislature in Florida and the governor to sign a bill banning certain assault weapons was a huge step in this country. And I think the fact that I heard Rick Santorum on CNN the other day, he just doesn't get it. And I think elected officials need to realize that young people are speaking the truth. They don't have an agenda. And I think that they're very serious about this. And I don't think this is the only issue that young people are going to speak out on. And I'm going to continue to encourage our young people to speak out. I know many of them went to the legislature in Massachusetts, where we have the toughest gun laws, and they were thoughtful, and they suggested to some of the legislators maybe that the legislators here in Massachusetts, including myself, can call some of our counterparts in parts of the country to encourage their cities and states to bring up some of the same gun laws that we have. So I think that if people think that young people are going away, they're not. They are the future of America. There's something in this generation that's young today that I see that wasn't in my generation or many of our generations, but it's in their generation. There's a leadership quality that I think this country is going to need at that time.
Any other questions? Let me ask one last one then. You talked about the importance of or trying to create a sort of a regional housing plan, which clearly is necessary because Boston is doing its part in terms of affordable housing and workforce housing. How would you see that structure? How would that work, and how will the governor's housing bill help in that respect?
Yeah, well, first of all, the Metro Mayors Coalition, we've gotten together, we've had many conversations about how we can approach different issues regionally. And I think the fact of working in silos is a thing of the past here in the greater Boston area. Working together collectively, whether it's on economic development or housing, is something that we've decided to move forward with. Our colleagues, the legislature, the House of Representatives did a housing bond bill. Kevin Honan, the chair, shepherded that bill through the legislature. They work regionally when they put together a housing bond bill. They work with colleagues from around the Commonwealth. We have to look and see what they're doing and do the same thing here in Massachusetts, because that housing bond bill is for the entire Commonwealth, and it's important for us in the greater Boston area, in my opinion, to keep the talent in this area. When you think about Boston and you put us up against some of the cities around America, obviously our population numbers aren't the same. But when you take the greater Boston area, our population numbers grow to about 2.1 million people. We're in competition with every single major city in America at that point. So it's important for us as we think regionally, housing is a natural for that. We've already announced, several months ago, we announced a plan that we were going to do a collective study, which we are. The reports of that study will be coming back, I believe, sometime in the month of April. When they come back, we're going to see where the shortages are needed, where the housing is needed, and we're going to work collectively with the State House to make sure that we continue to create more and more housing. It's something that has to happen, and I think it's one of the cornerstones of our administration was that, we're not in competition with Cambridge, we're not in competition with Somerville, we're not in competition with Chelsea. We have to be in this thing together, because rising tide lifts all boats, and we have to lift all our boats.
All right. I want to thank Mayor Walsh for his remarks and coming to this annual meeting, as the mayors have in the past, and we thank you for being here. This concludes the program, and glad we had good weather this time.